Well, we are excited to welcome you to our August Northwoods Financial Series session. Every month, Park City Credit Union is hosting a free educational session. My name is Sarah Sturm, and I am a member of the Park City marketing team, and I will be your moderator for today's session. I am excited to introduce you to our presenter, David Breaman.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so growing up in family business, he always cherished the opportunity to be able to do this. He started out washing cars as a summer job at Breaman Merrill Ford as young as 12 years old. And throughout the years, he worked as a service shop helper, service advisor, a sales representative, and as of January 2019, the general manager. He has worked years in the construction field for a local contractor and has also earned a degree in accounting from NTC. He has been married to his wife Danielle for 5 years and has 2 kids, Emerson and Cole, and a golden retriever, Boone. Besides his love for his family and the car industry, he enjoys pretty much anything that has to do with being active or being with people. So thank you again, David, and we will get started with our question and answer session. But before I jump into the questions that were submitted ahead of time, David, did you want to say a few words?
Sure, I definitely can. Growing up, I'm one of 4 boys in the business here. We got to watch our dad navigate the car industry for the last 31 years. So he's kind of stepped back in the last few years, let go of the reins a little bit. So now we get to experience this ever-changing world. I always tell people that I left the car business and then I came back because it was just kind of one of those things where I get to do a little bit of everything. And, when I walk in the day, I never know what's going to happen, pop up, who I'm going to see, who I'm going to talk to. And I think that's just the exciting part for me. It's, it's always changing. And people ask, what do you predict for this? Or what do you see coming? And usually my answer is just, today is going to happen. We're going to figure it out today. And to predict tomorrow, I'm just going to be wrong. And it's kind of how we just keep rolling with it, especially the last year and a half. That's been a real roller coaster. So.
Yeah. So, well, thank you. But anyone, if at any point you have a question and you would like our presenter, David, to answer, feel free to put your question in the chat box and I will read it to him when we have a pause in our conversation. So with that, I will jump right in with our questions.
Awesome.
So first question we have for you is there an end in sight for the new vehicle shortage? I know that's on everyone's mind right now, so let's just get that question out of the way.
Yeah, right. We've gone months where we thought we were going to get an end to this, but now the status quo is kind of finally figured out that we're not going to be back to the normalcy for probably a year. That's our presumption. If you would have asked me that a year ago, I would have said a year. But not knowing that these shortages were going to happen. Obviously, everybody's heard now it's the chips, and these chips are actually semiconductor chips. So until they get Ford, GM, all these manufacturers, until they get their supply chains resolved, we're still going to have a shortage. So if you want to walk in and get that vehicle, or in the years past, we were able to trade other dealers and they take something back off our lot and get exactly what you want. You have to have red, you have to have leather. Well, frankly, now in the last year, you have to order it. So. And our manufacturer was affected a little bit more than some of the other ones. I know Ram hasn't, Dodge hasn't seen the falling that we have, so I can't speak for everybody. But for us, currently on our lot today, we have 2 new vehicles, and those 2 new vehicles both showed up within the last 3 days. So I presume by the end of the week they won't even be here. That's just the good problem we have going on right now. So my presumption would be a year. Ford has come out. There's been a lot of good data out there explaining to everybody that they're going to try making some of these chips in house now. Not depend on basically one factory in Taiwan to put these out. So let's hope that's the case. And yeah, I do hope there's an end. But I think the leader at the helm at Ford may change his philosophy a little bit to what he sees for sort of vehicles being on the lots. We can touch on that a little bit later.
Okay. So is it mainly, like, I know you kind of said this, but is it the chip or the manufacturing of the vehicles themselves that are low on inventory, or is it both?
It's absolutely the chips. The manufacturing that, Ford in general, they had people stay home, because we're going to take our early vacations early. We have no chips to make these vehicles. And I always tell people here, there's maybe 10 people at Ford Motor Company that actually knew what was going on, what the problem was. We didn't figure out as a dealer, and we're getting our information from our sales reps from Ford. We didn't figure out until about a month and a half in that some of our vehicles that we were expecting to show up on our lot were parked on overflow parking lots in Michigan and near Kansas City in Missouri. And come to find out, almost 30,000 units were parked there made without chips. So it wasn't, a people thing. It was more of a shortage thing. And we still have, personally, our vehicles, we still have 4 of those vehicles still sitting there that have not been put together with the chips and brought back in. So it's they recently, in the last 2 weeks, they had us, whatever dealers wanted to sign up and allow them to ship us vehicles without chips. And we just talk about chips and nobody knows exactly what that means. But frankly, so like my vehicle, we have an Explorer. We could have 1,000 semiconductor chips in our Explorer. So it's not just a chip to run your screen. There's 9 chips that run your screen in your car. So the shortage is substantial, for a company that, builds so many vehicles a year. I mean, over 1 million trucks every year that they sell, not to mention just their vehicles. But say that your backup camera doesn't work, that requires a new backup camera from Ford Motor Company, which requires 1 or 2 chips. So, I mean, we've had many people with down vehicles for 3 or 4 months because of a part issue because they can't get it. So it's a real problem going around, and I think it's an eye opener for Ford Motor Company and outsourcing. And that's not the only thing they outsource for, just like other manufacturers. They're going to keep things more in house. And from what I've heard because the car industry is not the only thing going through the shortage, right? I mean, everybody's got a shortage everywhere. You hear about delays and everything going on. It's changing that manufacturing thought back to more of a just in case than just in time, and we'll see how that leads. It's never been the productive way for companies to do things, but to really affect the world market from something as small as a chip, it's going to change the way they think about things.
Right. And from someone that's very car illiterate, as you know, why can't they just start selling cars that don't need chips anymore? I mean, why is the chip that important? And obviously back in the day, they obviously probably didn't need chips. So, why can't we just go back like that?
So we get that question a lot. There's a lot of people that don't want that smartphone capability. I don't need this touch screen. But unfortunately, the demand, the market kind of demands this high-end technology. And, we've been saying it for 4 or 5 years. We laugh about it, but it's almost true. I said, Ford is more of a technology company, and they just happen to sell cars. And these chips aren't just your screen. They're not just your your luxury front camera or whatever. But it's also these blind spot indicators. It's detectors for the vehicle stopping with somebody pulling out in front of you with the pre-collision assist. It says as small as that auto start and stop feature that shuts your engine off. So these chips, they run everything. I mean, I reference it back to, here when our power goes out or our internet goes out, let's just say internet, we can't do anything. Everything we use runs off our internet, and that's the same kind of thing as the vehicles. You can't just, unfortunately, have your engine go because the chip that is required to perform the timing aspect of that engine performing isn't there. So supposedly, they're obviously the chips are going to the more desired and necessary equipment. The Ford has told us that if they do send us vehicles without chips, it's just going to be the center screen. It's not going to work, which we aren't able to sell it that way. We're just going to be holding it here until they send us those. So yeah, unfortunately we can't. We get that from near everyone that would just rather go back to that stick shift 1970s F100. The easy to use, easy to work on vehicle.
Right. Well, let's jump into a more heavy question. What is recommended for people who are at the point in their cycle that they normally trade in for a new vehicle right now?
So everybody's situation is different, right? So we navigate these questions all the time. Ford has been wonderful enough where they are allowing people who are leasing to extend their lease up to 6 months. They've been extending the warranty on that vehicle at no charge. They've been giving free oil changes to those people at no charge. So they have been, I think, a little above and beyond. But frankly, somebody orders out a new vehicle right now, that rebate structure that these people are used to 3 years ago, it's just not the same. So what we've been personally doing has been navigating people to buy their lease or to trade in their vehicle on something, because everybody's been around, everybody's heard that the used car market has increased, but the thing that's not going around and being talked about, I believe, is the incentives on new vehicles in the last 3 months are near nothing. And that's just because they have no inventory. Frankly, if anywhere you go, if you have nothing, obviously you need to give those incentives back. So again, going back to the question, what do you do when you are looking for a new vehicle? For example, we had somebody coming in here looking for a brand new Super Duty. Us personally, we have 13 new 2022 vehicles spoken for, 2022 Super Duties spoken for, and that last person, we're telling them May next year. So if I'm in that situation, if you can wait, awesome. We'd love to sell you a vehicle, but you're just going to go drive and find something. We had a very good customer of ours, had to go 5 hours for what he wanted, and that was the closest one. So everybody's situation is different. A lot of people are holding on to that vehicle, or, we've been stocking our lot full of 1 or 2 year old vehicles. And for this, round, somebody might be like, well, instead of, brand new, I'll upgrade 2 years and half the miles. And it's pretty slim difference, by the time that their trade-in holds a substantial value. Now, finally, with Ford, sounds like they're navigating the chip issues better. We can feel kind of confident for most of our vehicles saying 3 to 4 months. We've had 2 trucks come in last week that were 9 weeks, and we haven't had anything come in that quick in 2 years. So who knows? Maybe that's a good sign. We're still ordering all of our models, besides 3 of our models, are still 2021s. So 2021s are pushing longer into this model year. Usually we're seeing the new models roll up in a month. We get that question a lot right now. Should I wait a month for 2022? unfortunately, their order bank is full of 21s. So those 2022s are going to be 6 months out. So it's we're never going to be the one that said, yeah, order one right now and you'll get it in 2 months. And it's short wait, because to promise anything right now, I think I probably even told you I've never said the words "I don't know" so much in my life, because there's only so many people that really know the true issue going on. We didn't find out for probably 2 months into it that there's this huge shortage. I mean, there's a great 2020 documentary that happened, and it woke up everybody's eyes, and we didn't even know. Our reps didn't know. So it was a culmination of finding out after the fact. And yeah, I just to tell somebody exactly what they should do about a new vehicle, I would say it's an individual basis and figure out what's right for them.
Sounds good. Well, we've heard that a car you bought in the last few years, you get more for it now than what you paid for it. Is that true then too?
Not anymore. There was a rise. So going back to, let's say 2018, because everybody that does a lease or a warranty turnaround, we have a lot of customers that buy a vehicle for 3 years, 36,000 miles, and trade it off when they lose that bumper to bumper warranty. And they refresh their vehicle at home. Those vehicles, let's just we sell 70% of our vehicles are trucks. So let's talk an F-150. At the height of it, there's $13,000 discounts, rebates, package savings, everything. And that person was buying that vehicle that much discounted. So if you're talking about a $50,000 truck and they bought it for 38, yeah, in the beginning of February, March of this year, that 2018 F-150 at some places with 25,000 miles on it was going for 38. So in that case, you were getting it. You weren't paying the same as MSRP of the vehicle, but you were technically probably paying the same as what somebody actually paid for that 3 years ago. And it seems kind of crazy, of that can happen, but new controls are used pricing. So our new vehicles that have let's talk on that F-150 right now. I get $1,000 rebate and let's say $3,000 of savings and $1,000 Ford savings. So you're seeing max maybe $6,000 off a brand new F-150 right now. So what, $6-7 grand more you're paying already, and that vehicle from 2018 to 2021 is already, let's call it, $4 or $5 grand more expensive, just because of the safety features, the new luxuries, and everything like that. And then everything gets more expensive year over year. We still haven't seen the time where it starts getting cheaper, which I'd love to see that time happen, but unfortunately, they're not. So new is getting more expensive. That $50,000 truck is now $57,000, and then instead of getting $13,000 off, you're getting $6,000 off. So when new is that much inflated, the used market has to follow. So, people do ask me then in the follow-up question, do you ever see it coming back down? And I will talk about it, but new won't ever come back down. And unless we get a full lot of vehicles where Ford wants to start moving some more of the product, they're not going to stick rebates on these vehicles. So do I think that besides the big Super Duty trucks that are in a classification of their own, do I see that see a huge correction in these vehicle pricing? Not a huge one. I mean, it's come back down in the last 3 or 4 months, but we won't see a huge correction. I mean, right now, I think the stat shows 5.5% inflation. I think we're living in the stats in July. And I would say, car industry gets the wrap of increased pricing, but I think at its height, car industry was up 10-12%. So I would talk about pricing, but everything is up, and the car industry just happens to be a little bit more of a percentage, probably because of the huge lack of vehicles. So yeah, it was. People are laughing what they can get for their vehicle, but then they have to turn around and buy something too. So that statistic was true. It's the market has corrected itself in the last, I would say, 2 months. It's corrected itself, but I don't know how much more correcting it's going to do. With new staying up.
Gotcha. Interesting. So I know you mentioned you guys do have like the waiting list for the new vehicles, right? Is that a pretty common, like you can go to pretty much any dealership, you think, and that's a common thing that you can get on a waiting list? Or, because we have some people that might be joining us from other markets and whatnot, so.
Yeah, you drive around and you see the lots, right? There's lots all the way around that are half full. And I don't, like I said, I don't know all manufacturers. I know Dodge Ram, they weren't affected as much. Maybe they have a better supply chain. Maybe they use a different resource for their chips. But yeah, for us specifically, we're kind of like you guys at Park City. You're the local guys. You're the ones that when somebody has a problem, you want to go in and have a conversation with. We have a very good clientele of people that keep returning, which is wonderful. And those people typically will wait. It's not like that everywhere. I hear you drive down south or out west, and there's lots full of cars, new cars. And I hear, in Florida, people, taking vacations down there, and there's new on the lot. And I don't know what the situation is. Us personally, we're still discounting our vehicles, but I've heard manufacturers are, they cut the rebates, and then some dealers are asking over MSRP because they have it, So is that the reason why they have vehicles on the lot? Probably. Maybe they don't have the demand like we're seeing. But referencing the local Ford dealers that we communicate with around us, they're in the same boat as us. They have a waiting list. At our height, we had 67 pre-orders for people. And we typically, on any time, besides fleet orders for municipalities, we typically have 5. Because we typically can find the right one off of a local Ford dealer, and we'll trade them something else in return. And we can get that vehicle for them, or have a selection of 60 new on our lot, they can choose from and maybe give up something instead of ordering exactly what they want because they wanted it right now. So yeah, it's locally, it's like that for Ford dealers. I know the Toyota lots are pretty empty. Subaru wasn't affected as much from what I hear. GM was really affected. They're in the same boat as us. So I don't think you can walk in and just pick up a new truck of your liking and without ordering it. And to go out of our locality, it'd be hard to say why if somebody has vehicles on the lot.
Gotcha. This one wasn't on a, this is a question that just popped up in my head for you. As far as, you mentioned driving around and looking at lots, does it even pay to look online to these dealerships' websites? Are you even able to keep up with demand on the website for your inventory, or is it pretty much just going straight out the door and you have to drive around to see what's on the lots because they can't keep up with demand?
So if we're talking new, because pre-owned's a whole different market, right? So pre-owned, we get our stuff on our website within 2 days. We get cleaned up, picture ready, and whatnot. Being new, it's a little different. So when you order a vehicle for a consumer, somebody in particularly, it's a different order number. And when you order it for stock for retail on the lot, it's another different order number. So when our website, our Ford system, when it's produced and then it's labeled as in transit, then it will show up on our website saying dealer ordered vehicle in transit. So that vehicle will show a stock unit for us, just like a stock picture. until it shows up here, and then we actually take 20 plus pictures and put it on our website. So if you see actual pictures on our website, most dealers' website, that vehicle is there. If it shows in transit, then it should be labeled as a unit that's going to hit the ground, that's going to be available for sale, and nobody's spoken for it yet. We personally, all of the other ones that are ordered for people will never show up on our website. So website, we're in the day and age that if you don't have your website up and running fast and accurate, frankly, you're just far behind. I mean, because everybody nowadays does 90% of their shopping before they walk into the dealership. So, we always tell people, what you want before you walk in. You're just trying to find a reason not to buy it.
Right. All right. Well, let's shift gears a little bit here and talk about the kind of finance side of things for the car industry. Does it pay to even get pre-approved right now? I can see pros and cons, maybe to both, but can you touch on that for us, please?
So I would always recommend people have an idea. We do have many people that walk in and say, I have no idea what my credit score is. That could get you in trouble with, some of these places that you go. There are, some places do take advantage of situations where somebody has no idea. So come prepared, come as prepared as you possibly can. Know your credit score. Know if you are deserving of that top tier, credit and payment. Kind of have an idea. I mean, it's simple. I mean, you can Google a loan calculator and figure out where you want your payment and what your budget's like, and have an idea that how you think things should go. I do recommend people to. I mean, I grew up in a small family dealership. I grew up in a town that you hope everybody can keep your neighbors employed. So I do like to recommend people find some place you can walk in and have a conversation with. So in my situation, what I've seen, people are armed with better buying credentials if they have an idea. Do you really need to be pre-approved? Not necessarily, but you should know your credit score. You should know what you're deserving for a payment. You should know thereabouts. Before you walk in anywhere.
Okay, that's good to know. Another question we had was, can you negotiate the price on a vehicle?
I always answer everything's negotiable, right? But I'll speak for ourselves because it's hard to speak for any other dealership. They have different philosophies than us. We track our pricing every day, if not every other day. New, like I said, we're still discounting our vehicles, but I do know that you are walking someplace, and I've heard from people, they just laugh and say, if you don't buy it, then somebody will buy it tomorrow, and this, I tell people, this will end, the shortage will end. And we have so many great customers of ours that have been buying for 30 years from us. So the negotiation is kind of already been thought about already. The day, like you said, you look online for people.
All right, we are back recording. All right.
Wonderful thing about technology, right?
Negotiating price and looking at pricing of vehicles.
Right. So pretty much what I was getting at is for us to stay busy, to keep the inventory flowing. And like most dealers, you have to advertise that very best price. Otherwise, you're not going to even get a click, and the majority of our business starts with a click. We call them internet inquiries, and we walk in on a Monday morning with 25 of them, from people clicking over the weekend. And you're not going to get that click, that question if you're overpriced. And with the demand of the car industry, as of recently, that philosophy of, that vehicle's been here for 120 days, and the normal turn rate on that vehicle should be 90 days. We need to cut ties if they get lost with it. Our average turn right now is below 50 days. So that, hey, your vehicle's been there forever was typically the point where you could, negotiate, which probably meant that that person was overpriced. That dealership was overpriced because it sat there or the right end user wasn't there. So I would always recommend somebody to probably try, because you don't know the situation of that vehicle. You don't know if they have 6 more of that same one coming in, you don't know their situation. So doesn't hurt to ask.
Okay, sounds good. So if I'm going to buy a vehicle, should I have my vehicle looked at by a mechanic before I purchase it?
I mean, you're probably deciding to buy that vehicle from someplace because you've heard good things or read reviews, or you have a friend tell you, or your family member say, hey, they're great to deal with. In some cases, absolutely. I recommend, there's a lot of great service shops around Merrill, and a lot of people that come in have a guy, have somebody that they trust. If it's not us, they trust this person. We probably have up to 5 people a month take that vehicle that they potentially want to buy, take it there and have them look at it. And we almost recommend it, because our recon of these vehicles, we do a lot of brakes, a lot of tires, a lot of suspension parts. We look through our vehicles very thoroughly. If they don't meet the credentials of what we want to sell here, we'll send them away to car auctions and let somebody else invest in them and try to turn them around. So speaking personally from our situation, we, if you'd like to, go ahead. Most places that you're buying, I would assume you're talking about a pre-owned vehicle. Most places that you're buying from do an inspection process. Ours is a 140 multi-point inspection. If we miss something, we love to know, because it's hard to be perfect 100% of the time. And if I look at something, and frankly, if you look at something, you might see a flaw that I cannot see. So if you have the ability to have somebody else look at it with you, even a friend ride along with you, or a family member that knows a little bit more about cars than you, be our guest. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to skip to the end here, since we are seeming to have some internet connection issues, and I want to make sure this last question gets answered, because I think it's kind of an interesting question we had, different way to look at things. So what is expected to happen to the value of gas for automobiles when the big makers release their bulk of electric cars? Because we're seeing electric cars becoming more and more popular. So what's going to happen with gas then, do you think?
That's a good question. It's hard to see happens. Obviously Tesla's been around, and they've proven that California market. It's been going through the whole nation, and it's taking off pretty good. Ford's diving in. They got the F-150. They have the Mustang Mach-E. The Hummer coming out, and GM's got a few. So it sounds like everybody's gearing this the future as being electric. It all sounds wonderful. We all said the story here. I want to be electric, I want to be clean. I think it's great. And then obviously the battery issue. The battery issue is going to be, the thought of the recycling process, the thought of what's that longevity if you get to 100,000 miles? What is that battery actually going to be worth? What's the cost to do that? I believe it's Washington State has outlawed gas vehicle sales in 2030. So that's really going to change things when you can't sell a brand new gas vehicle in the state. It's one of two things: either that gas powered vehicle is going to increase in value or decrease in value. because it could be like we were talking about before. Why can't we bring back some of the old cars that we like without chips? Could be the same thought process that, I want a gas powered vehicle. And I know in our area we're more rural. If you get to the urban areas like Milwaukee and Green Bay, they're going to, those markets are going to accept this a lot better. But I don't think our market is fully going to wrap their heads around all EV. It hasn't, like I said, it hasn't been accepted yet. So to put a predictive value of what your gas automobile is going to be, in 5 to 10 years, I don't think there's a worry. When your children's car goes in to get turned in for electric vehicle, possibly in 15 to 20 years, but I think 10 years we're still fine. Because
well, it looks like we maybe lost Dave again. Silly technology, like a big portion of our discussion today has been based around technology. Oh, he looks like he's coming back. Well, Dave, if you can hear us, thank you so much for presenting for us today. There you are. Hey, we lost you again for a second, but do you have any follow-up discussion that you want to say before you get cut off again? I apologize, this is happening, and maybe we won't even get to have you do that. Well, everyone, I'll just jump to the end here, and if you do have questions, I do have David's information here that I will share with everyone. So I'm sure you can reach out to David, phone number listed, email listed as well, and he is more than happy to answer any questions that you have. Take it from me. I am constantly reaching out, I feel like, with different car-related questions that I have. So they're very patient at Breaman Merrill Ford. But, it doesn't hurt if you have a local auto person that you want to reach out to. I'm sure that they are going to gladly answer any questions that you have. But again, thank you all for attending today's Northwoods Financial Series session. Our next session will take place at the end of September. We're still finalizing some details on that session, so stay tuned to the Park City website and to our social media page for details on that session. But again, thank you so much for attending, and we hope you have a wonderful day.